From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
From fiery debates to claims from candidates, election season is in full gear. How to better understand the current polling numbers and what they mean for your vote.
Plus, Hurricane Florence may have dissipated, but the devastation is far from over in the Carolinas. What President Donald Trump had to say about the damage during his trip to North Carolina.
And one nonprofit organization is lending a hand to those who have served. How they're helping displaced veterans get back on their feet.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Bryce Newberry.
And I'm Jennifer Alvarez. Thank you for joining us.
Polls are showing a tight race for the governor's seat in the November election. But how close is the race really? Reporter Gabriela Becerra tells us how voters can better understand these polling numbers.
Multiple polls are showing Doug Ducey and David Garcia in a close race for the Arizona governor's seat. Target Smart released a poll that is showing Ducey at 49% and Garcia at 48%. Pollster Ben Lazarus says this could turn Arizona blue.
If I'm incumbent in his position, that freaks me out. So that to me, that's I think the key takeaway where all the state is pointing right now is that governor's race is tight.
Data Orbital's poll shows Ducey with 48.8% and Garcia with 41%.
If in fact there is a blue wave, it means really good things for the governor's race, and even if the blue wave doesn't hit Arizona, it still means the governor's race in Arizona is very competitive.
Reuters has Ducey with 51% and Garcia with 39%. Ducey's campaign spokesperson Patrick Batak wrote in an email, "We are focused on the only poll that matters, the one on Election Day. We are working hard to reach out to voters across Arizona before then and earn their support."
Polling is a snapshot in time.
And that snapshot can be swayed depending on the current political climate, according to the chief pollster at OH Predictive Insights, Mike Noble.
So if someone polled over a 2-week time period, that's something I'd be very suspect about, because those opinions can change, especially in the era of Trump with tweets and the 24-hour media coverage, what the mood is 2 weeks ago compared to those voters' moods, a week or so later.
So with all these polls, how do voters know who's ahead?
Anyone that says they know what turnout's going to be on Election Day, I think is kind of full of it, because we're just really, frankly, not going to know until early voting begins. And
Noble says, watch out for the margin of error. If it's more than plus or minus 5 percentage points, there's an issue with the methodology. In Phoenix, Gabriela Becerra, Cronkite News.
With debates happening now, it's likely poll numbers will be affected. Ducey and Garcia will debate on September 24th.
The debate between Arizona Congressional District 3 candidates Nick Pearson and Representative Raul Grijalva started off rocky with some unexpected comments from both candidates.
And he's not a good example of a Mexican, he's not a good example of a Mexican-American, and he's not a good example of an American. He's not a good role model for the people in our community.
My heritage, my Mexicanness is not something that I put up for sale or barter in any political election. That's part of my being. You know, if Mr. Pearson cares so much about this district, he should probably live in the district that he chooses to want to represent. You don't live in the district.
That's right. I live close to the district, and I've been working in the district for many years. And in fact, many people in the community tell me they've never seen the congressman.
The candidates went on to address topics like immigration, healthcare, and education funding. Meanwhile, more debates are set for Arizona Horizon. The candidates for Corporation Commission will debate tomorrow night. You'll hear from Congressional District 6 candidates on Friday. Then on Monday, Governor Doug Ducey will take on challenger David Garcia. All of these hour-long debates will be right here at 5 p.m. on Arizona PBS.
Now the latest on Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh and the woman who accuses him of sexually assaulting her decades ago. This morning, Senator Jeff Flake tweeted a plea to Dr. Christine Blasey Ford to testify on Monday as scheduled. The Republican chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee also offered Ford's lawyers a letter to have his investigators interview her whenever she wants. Chairman Chuck Grassley's letter says if Ford intends to testify, she must submit a written testimony by Friday morning.
President Trump visited the storm-ravaged Carolinas nearly a week after Hurricane Florence made landfall. Trump was there to assess the impact of the hurricane as thousands of evacuees wait to go home. At least 37 people died in 3 states. Entire communities have been taken over by rising floodwaters, and FEMA has described the situation as extremely critical. But Trump said first responders deserve a lot of credit in tough conditions.
We're doing very well there, but the rivers are cresting. They're just starting to crest. We're really just going to say hello to all of the folks from FEMA, the military, the people that are working so hard.
Some areas along the Cape fear little rivers have started to rescind their evacuation orders as officials determined that the rivers have already crested and are now receding.
Aside from the physical destruction that hurricanes bring, they can leave behind emotional and psychological damage as well. Reporter Jimmy Jackson looks at how the American Red Cross is helping Hurricane Florence victims cope with the disaster.
This is what was traumatic to me, leaving and knowing the conditions, wondering if I couldn't survive a night, wondering how are they going to survive this.
Lillian Ortiz was vacationing in Puerto Rico when Hurricane Maria struck a year ago. She says the destruction left behind after the hurricane was painful to witness. The American Red Cross's disaster mental health team knows the mental stress Mother Nature can leave behind. Volunteers have been working in North Carolina to help survivors of Hurricane Florence cope.
Our overall job is to be a compassionate presence with folks who have suffered trauma and significant loss.
Durham also mentions how part of disaster recovery is getting people's lives back to the way they were, but understanding that for everyone, that won't always be the case.
Now, the truth is they may get to a new normal. Things may never be the same as what they were. They may not be able to live in the same home.
Life isn't the same for Claudio Medina. He had to relocate to Arizona to live with his daughter after Hurricane Maria destroyed his home.
For me, it's depressing to visit Puerto Rico now. I am looking for some light that bright our horizon and permit us to say, okay, I'm ready to go to Puerto Rico. But at this moment, I don't think so.
Ortiz's advice for people affected by Hurricane Florence is to help each other out.
That's all I can really tell the people, because I know that's what helped the island. You know, that they all just got together and says, no, this is not going to destroy us. We have to rise from this.
The disaster mental health team will be in the areas impacted by Florence for months if necessary. In Phoenix, Jimmy Jackson, Cronkite News.
If you want to help those affected by Hurricane Florence, you can reach out to the American Red Cross.
Someone could have a traumatic brain injury, and you wouldn't even know it. That's part of the reason why Phoenix police are training officers on how to deal with people who have TBI. Brain injuries can cause difficulties for people responding to commands or questions from police. Over the last year, Barrow Neurological Institute and Phoenix PD have trained about 170 officers on how to communicate and interact with those showing signs of TBI, which could include erratic or belligerent behavior toward an officer without any unlawful intent.
We really wanted to make sure that the officer had some empathic understanding of how a traumatic brain injury could affect that individual's ability to successfully interact with the officer.
The program involves speakers who have brain injuries themselves so that officers can have a better understanding on how they can handle the situation.
A Valley group that helps troubled veterans get off the streets and into homes and jobs is expanding. John Cardinelli is in the broadcast center to show us the impact.
The group U.S. Vets plans to expand their facilities this October to be able to house more than 200 veterans. They offer a helping hand to those in desperate situations.
I didn't want to wake up in the morning. I just didn't want to exist. You know, I was depressed. I would hope not to wake up in the morning.
Edward Welch is a United States veteran and found himself living on the Phoenix streets 10 years ago.
I was sleeping behind Circle K on 32nd Street in Van Buren. Some guy found me, asked me if I was a veteran. I told him yeah, and next thing you know, I was staying at U.S. Vets.
U.S. Vets is a nonprofit organization with one objective: to serve those who served.
We're here to help homeless veterans get back to permanent housing and get back to a productive life. So what we do here is we offer case management services and any other support that they need to get into housing, to get jobs.
Kevin Whitmore is currently in the program. Living at U.S. Vets has given him all the essentials.
They have helped me gain really control of my life again. So that means dental. They provided me home and housing.
The program also places them in classes, ranging from how to deal with PTSD, addiction, and even how to find a job.
You know, they actually showed me how to make a resume, and I still use that today. Matter of fact, the job I have, the resume that I made in U.S. Vets then, that's the same one I use today. I just update it on a regular basis.
The current job Welch has mirrors that of the man that saved his life 10 years ago. He's an outreach coordinator at U.S. Vets.
My job is to go out and find different resources and that can provide services for these homeless veterans. You may find me in soup kitchens, food banks, different shelters, going to find those veterans to try and get them into transitional housing so they can get the opportunity to get those crucial tools that I got.
Welch says he took the job at U.S. Vets to give hope to his fellow brothers who served. There are still more than 200 homeless veterans in Maricopa County that could use transitional assistance. In the broadcast center, John Cardinelli, Cronkite News.
A Pima County grant that would have provided Border Patrol resources was rejected earlier this month.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we travel to Tucson to understand why the fight for funding is far from over.
Plus, the immigration debate heats up among lawmakers. We track the push for solutions from Arizona's congressional delegation.
Join Emmy award-winning CNN anchor Anderson Cooper as he receives the 2018 Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism. Attracting industry leaders from the media, politics, business, and education, the award luncheon is the Cronkite School's signature fundraising event. Tickets for the luncheon ceremony on Wednesday, October 17th at the Sheraton Grand in Phoenix are available for sale at cronkite.asu.edu/luncheon or call 602-496-0482.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
In Pima County, the debate concerning a federal grant for border security is far from over. Cronkite News reporter Abdel Jimenez is tracking the story. Abdel?
Thank you, Bryce. Earlier this month, the Pima County Board of Supervisors rejected a $1 million grant. The decision comes at the heels of a public outcry over how those funds were being managed. I traveled to Tucson to see what happens now.
Politics and public safety should not intersect one another.
However, the two topics continued to create debate after the Pima County Board voted against a $1.4 million federal grant known as Operation Stone Garden, aimed at providing resources for border patrolling. Now, Pima County Sheriff Mark Napier has to find another way to get funding.
I'd so much rather spend the money the federal government was nearly begging me to take to add public safety to my county than to have that on the backs of the taxpayers.
The Sheriff's Department has already used about half the grant to pay for things like overtime and equipment. Meanwhile, Richard Elias is one of the board members who voted against it back on September 4th. He says his decision was based on concerns over the recent cases of family separations at the border and the public outcry over the perception that the sheriff was cooperating with federal law enforcement.
I think our sheriffs should be patrolling Pima County streets and protecting Pima County residents as opposed to doing immigration enforcement.
Napier disagrees.
We do not have federal immigration enforcement power, period.
We are a community that does not stand for this type of funding to go into our community to dehumanize our people.
The debate has rippled into local politics in Pima County, generating strong backlash from residents. Despite losing this grant, Sheriff Napier says his department will continue to focus on providing safety and security near the border, aside from the political back and forth.
So we need to separate all this rhetoric and all this heated language and all this divisiveness and really look at this a very realistic and pragmatic view. This is about public safety, it's about national security, it's about human rights.
All activities surrounding Operation Stone Garden will cease within the next 2 weeks. In the Broadcast Center, Abdel Jimenez, Cronkite News.
Many congressional leaders have already proposed multiple solutions in the immigration debate, like more funding and building the border wall. Cronkite News reporter Charlene Santiago tells us how Arizona representatives are pushing their goals for reform in the nation's capital.
Come with my Border Patrol agents in Arizona.
That wake-up call on immigration came recently from Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs and other House Republicans.
This is necessary. I need everybody's support for this bill.
Biggs introduced a bill in August that would create a fund to complete the border wall.
We got to fight the establishment who doesn't want to see a wall built. They don't want to see internal laws enforced.
And he's not alone.
Common sense immigration reform.
Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb supports legal migration, but as a sheriff, he says he has to worry about his county's security.
We're all dealing with drugs coming into our communities, human trafficking. This doesn't stop at Arizona. 40% of all illegal drugs do come through our Arizona border. We take this very serious as Arizona sheriffs.
But Sarah Pierce, an analyst with the Migration Policy Institute, says not all immigration is a threat.
Well, I think it's a mistake to paint immigration as a security threat and an economic threat to the United States. There's broad agreement that immigration, especially well-managed legal migration, is beneficial to the U.S. economy, the U.S. society, and really our country as a whole.
Arizona Representative Raul Grijalva agrees and says the best answer to border security is not more walls, but better gates in the walls we already have. Grijalva says we should shift towards modernizing our port of entry instead of, quote, pontificating over a ridiculous, divisive, and expensive border wall.
We still have to build the wall. We still have to enforce.
In the meantime, Biggs' bill called the Fund and Complete the Border Wall Act faces an uphill climb, having been assigned to 7 committees in the House.
And you talk about the human cause, and then you'll understand why a wall needs to be built.
In Washington, Charlene Santiago, Cronkite News.
From ladders and appliances dropped in the middle of roadways to little pieces of litter.
Trash around Phoenix is piling up. Coming up on Cronkite News, a look at how much it's costing taxpayers to keep the highways of Phoenix clean.
Rainfall has made its way to the valley for the first time in weeks. But how long are these storms going to last? I'll tell you when you can expect those clouds to clear out coming up.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles. In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. The 2018 election season has arrived. Join us for primary and general election debates. Right here, meet the candidates and hear their positions. Arizona Horizon, your source for what matters most this election season. Only on Arizona PBS.
You might start to see a new campaign for a persistent problem along Arizona's freeways, litter. It's costing taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars more this year to keep roads clean. A mattress, a tire, and scrap metal. These are just a few of the things you may see driving along Arizona's freeways.
Don't secure your mattress with your arm. You know, it doesn't make sense. You're going to lose it, so you're going to have to pay for a new mattress. You're also going to make it dangerous for other people.
All those mattresses add up. It costs the state more than $4 million a year to keep about 400 highway miles in the Phoenix metro area clean.
Most of us treat our individual homes with respect. We should treat our collective home, the state of Arizona, with the same respect. So Arizona is not your ashtray, Arizona is not your junkyard, Arizona is not your trash can, Arizona is our home. Love it, don't trash it.
That's the message of a new campaign by the Maricopa Association of Governments, after more than 80,000 bags of litter were collected in 2017. You might think the big problem is the mattresses like the ones you see behind me. But actually, officials say the big concern is trash only the size of my pinky. Cigarette butts are one of the most common types of litter, but they're small and hard to get rid of.
Cigarette butts have 165 poisonous chemicals in them, so that can leach down into the water supply, which can impact health and the environment.
The Maricopa Association of Governments says survey results showed a large increase in the number of people who threw out cigarette butts.
We live in the Sonoran Desert, which is one of the most beautiful and unique places in the entire world. So we want to love it and cherish it and not trash it.
Officials told me all this litter adds up to about 855,000 pounds a year. If you see someone littering, you can report a violation at don'ttrashaz.com.
Our cloudy skies and scattered showers are finally dropping us out of the triple digits.
Haley Brand is in the Weather Center tracking the forecast.
That's right, it's a rainy day here in Phoenix, but it's a welcome change. It's the first time we've seen any rain since September 3rd. But with those storms, there's going to come the possibility of dust storms and even flash flooding later on tonight. But these storms aren't going to stay with us long, as it'll dry out by this time tomorrow. Taking a look at where those storms are right now, you can see that monsoon moisture is rising up from the southern part of the state. A lot of those storms focus now in the southeast parts of Phoenix, dropping massive amounts of rainfall as we prepare for the weekend. But this rain isn't going to stay with us long. It's going to move out towards the eastern part of the state after it drops about a quarter inch of rain later on tonight. And this rainfall is going to bring lower temps here across the state. We won't even reach triple digits tomorrow, where they're going to top out around 98 degrees, 93 over in Casa Grande, and even cooler temps up in the high country. And we're going to keep that trend of low temps going into the weekend. We won't reach triple digit temperatures again until Saturday. And we're going to remain relatively cool for this time of year going into next week. In the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Haley Brand.
A good deed always goes a long way, even more so in a time of need.
Coming up on Cronkite News, Cardinals superstar Larry Fitzgerald supports a Valley family and business after discovering some heartbreaking news.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
Working for Cronkite News because it gives us the opportunity to find a different angle on the same stories that every other news outlet is covering across Arizona. As students, we have the opportunity to cover issues in all across the state of Arizona.
It gives me a good chance to sharpen my skills, improve my skills, learn the techniques in a newsroom and in the programs and teamwork and technology, getting me prepared for the real world. And at the same time, I think we do a great job, make some great stories, do great journalism for the city of Phoenix and state of Arizona.
Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald picked up the bill for patrons of Casella's Deli yesterday for 5 hours. It was a way to support the deli's owner, Joe Casella, who has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Reporter Taylor Rocha has the story.
11 years after Saguaro High School's opening in 1966, Casella's Italian Deli opened their doors right around the corner. Quickly, this restaurant would become a staple in the community. A relationship sprouted with owners Joe and Tina Casella and the Sabercats over 4 decades.
They've been super supportive of the Saguaro community, and they're just good people. They run a great place. It's family food. It's great food, and when you go in there, you're treated like your family.
The community supported Joe Casella right back as the 79-year-old has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. To To show support for Casella and his family, Larry Fitzgerald recently picked up the lunch tab at the Deli.
It means a lot to me and my family, not just me. He loves me and he loves my family. Anytime I say I want to change the I to we, because it's family. It's just not about me.
These family-focused values drew Fitzgerald to the Deli and prompted him to aid Casella in his time of need. Despite the multitude of transplants in the valley, Fitzgerald stressed the importance of coming together to help a neighbor.
This is a community of people from all around the country, but we really love the state of Arizona for the opportunities provided for us, the gifts it has given us.
While Casella takes on his battle, his priority is to continue being a light in the Saguaro community.
You're going to walk out of here smiling after I'm finished with you.
And cheer on the SaberCats and the Cardinals along the way. In Scottsdale, Taylor Rocha, Cronkite News.
And you may have noticed two other current Arizona Cardinals players there. Running back DJ Foster and rookie wide receiver Christian Kirk both graduated from Saguaro High School.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and the PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, it's Constitution Week, an observance meant to spur the study of the document and see how art is giving some veterans relief from PTSD. That's on the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour. In the wake of Hurricane Florence, Miles O'Brien takes a look at the risk of sea level rise around one of America's major cities. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.